or low. It's been a really long time. Hope y'all doing great. I've been living life, doing things, trying to build some things, trying to break down some things, trying to rebuild some things, trying to redesign new things. Doing a lot of movement while staying stationary. I don't know. Anyways, we're gonna jump into this because I don't really know how to start anymore because it's been like 4 months. That was very sing-songy. We're gonna be alright though. Hope y'all missed me. Welcome back to your daily dose of D. Not so daily, but still, your dose of D. We're gonna do our readings, we're gonna do some chit-chatting, and that'll probably be that. I'm gonna see if that works a little bit better. Alright. Well, my hair is driving me crazy, so we're just gonna let that rock. I think we've got the sound quality checked now. Feeling a little disorganized, feeling a little disheveled. It's one of the first days off I've had in months that I didn't have to go anywhere or do anything. Past couple months have been really crazy. Really crazy. But I really want to center myself back into myself, and the way that I center myself into myself the most is through reading. I want to put myself back into the world, and therefore I convene with others and I read the words. And then I apply analysis and I apply. And then I use analysis and apply it. That's the part that we lack. Anyways, reading is hard. We will slowly work on figuring out ways to get people to read more. And until then, you get my lovely voice to read for you. Hopefully, if this ever gets good enough, big enough, I'll take suggestions. If y'all have a book you want me to read, I'll take suggestions. I'll have a list set up or something, but we have to actually get big enough, and that needs to happen. Until then, you get to read what I think is good, interesting, and important. Good is such a vague word. Interesting and important. Fun. Fun, interesting, and important. Yeah. Anyways. I'm not sure how much of this I've done. And yeah, all right. So the first we're going to start with, I know we normally start with poetry, and this is kind of in that realm, but this is called Things I Would Like to Do With You by Waylon H. Lewis. Hope I said your name right, as always. Nice little cover. I really, really love this edition. It's their green edition. The book is green. I think I got 2 of them because I really liked it so much. Consumerism, baby! But they're words, and so I don't know. Anyways. Things I would like to do with you in time. We lead our lives like water flowing down a hill, going more or less in one direction until we splash into something that forces us to find a new course. Arthur Golden. You are out there and I am out here, and this is not the time. But the time may come to pass. That is how time works. The only question that matters now, then, is whether our hearts have connected and can learn to breathe together. If you had a spare hour, I would not want to see you. I would want you to take a break from your path and do something lovely for yourself. A massage or a swim or fun with friends. Whatever you have not done for yourself that you are thirsty for. Maitri. M-A-I-T-R-I. Space is love, and I give that which cannot be given to, but can only be taken from you. And you need it. As you have said, it provides ground for good things to come. If you had a day, I would fly anywhere in the country to see you, if only for an hour, and we could drink warm, hot brown coffee and go for a walk. And I would like to cry at the thought of seeing you and holding your hand, sitting on a bench, looking into the street together, seeing your profile from the other side. Sighs are healthy, for they mix watery emotion with space and humor. If you had a week, I would like to meet you somewhere, on your road or in my hometown. We could dinner and go to a show and to a bar and play pool and laugh at each other and drink local beer and stay separately or together. I would rent something where we could climb to the roof. We could bicycle and go to a used bookstore, and we could cuddle and read out loud, if that is not too much. If that is too much, we could just walk in the park. If that is still too much, we could just go to a party and be loud and fun and barely make eye contact, but warm one another in each other's fires. If that is too much, we could just be naked and sweat and learn one another's bodies and movements, like two new surfers learning to respect the water. If that is too much, we can forget one another, mostly, as we have our other lovers. If you had 2 weeks, we could go on a little break together, to a romantic retreat, big sky, or ocean cliffs, or pink desert, with nothing but space, big skies, warm waters, nothing to do but be. If you had 3 weeks, however, we should go to blue islands. White walls, white sky, white sea, blue skies. Your eyes, your hair, your bikini, my shorts, 4 tanned and sandy bare feet. What are the colors there? Blue, bright blue, pale blue, blue-green, gray blue, bright pink flowers and sun, light pink and white tablecloth, white, white, white. I would like to spend some time on the sea and in the islands. A painted lacquered wooden boat, your red dress, impossibly blue sky and water. See-through white curtains in a hot breeze. But if you had 4 weeks and you were ready, which you are not, we should just be simple, together, in my hometown, and live life, and not do anything but hike and drink coffee and work, and laugh with my dog, and eat good food with many good friends, or alone, and run together along the creek into the mountains. We could text and make appointments with one another. What are you doing later? And see each other when convenient. Like adults, like normal life, and see. And that would be the best, to live everyday life with you. For I do not know you, and though I seem dreamy and open, just beneath that layer I am waiting. My hope balanced with prajna, Prajna. 3 layers down, I am rational. That is where my hesitation and patience rest. But I am not afraid of exploring and finding out what lies over the edge of the flat earth, for it is not flat. I am not afraid of anything but filling your space. You need and deserve that, and I would not like to be a part of anything other than love in your life. And as you and I both know, in our bones, in our blood, in our mind stream, in our calm moments, love is made up of space, just as the earth is made up of water. And my love includes laughter. The wood fire requires wood and oxygen, both. And I love to cut wood. Okay. Right. Again, that was Things I Would Like to Do With You by Waylon H. Lewis. That's last. I'm thinking I'm gonna switch it up. I'll read that one tomorrow. That'll be fun. Okay. So this next one that we're going to read is from the journal called Catalyst. This is volume 5, number 4. This is a literary journal, I want to say, which is made by the same people who make Jacobin. the magazine that we frequently read from. And we are going to read one of their essays called Is the Labor Movement Back? By Chris Maisano, Maisano. That will be included. And yeah, but here's the abstract. While the uptick in strike activity in 2021 is heartening, its influence should not be exaggerated. The number and extent of job actions was noticeable, but still very small by historical standards, and union density continued to decline. A significant labor upsurge might be in the works, but it is not in evidence yet. Oh, I should probably... When was this published? Oh, Volume 5, Issue 4, Winter 2022. It's the most recent one, I believe. Is the Labor Movement Back? By Chris Maisano. In the early days of the coronavirus pandemic, Pope Francis spoke movingly of the workers keeping the world turning in dark times. Quote, people who do not appear in newspaper and magazine headlines or on the latest television show, yet in these very days are surely shaping the decisive events of our history. Doctors, nurses, storekeepers, and supermarket workers. Doctors, nurses, storekeepers, and supermarket workers, cleaning personnel, caregivers, transport workers, men and women, and people. You all need to stop adding this binary, bro. We have so much evidence that there's intersex. Like, the current evidence right now says that 1.7%, and it was 1% about 2 years ago. So it's already increased 1% just because of education. Intersex births are about 2% currently, as we know, of all births. Intersex means that someone is born with how are we gonna this is a YouTube audience. All right, bet y'all we're gonna do some learning. We're gonna do some learning because I just want to not. Fuck. All right, here we go. We're gonna do a Google definition because we're gonna do it with you because honestly, y'all should just do a quick Google definition and do some Wikipedia and intersex. But anyways, the definition of intersex are individuals born with any of several sex characteristics, including chromosome patterns, gonads, or genitals, that, according to the... Man, fuck that shit. Okay. Alright, we're gonna summarize this again. I don't like how many words they put in. It's all... whatever. You can't legalize intersex birth. It just fucking happens. We're humans. There is no binary. They lied to you. They lied to you and said there was male and female. There is not. The entire history of humanity has continually recognized that there is at the very minimum, depending on how you group it, 3 sexes. There are 3 types of sexual reproductive humans that are made, at least. You have the ones with uteruses and vaginas and double X's. You have ones with XY and testes and penises. And you have ones that are a mix and match of these two. So you can have a double X chromosome and a penis and a uterus. You could have a vagina and XY chromosomes and testes. Intersex, bro. It is not male or female. And anyways. I'm gonna look up intersex percentage 2021. And in 2021, it was estimated that 1.7% of the entire world population. In 2019, that number was 1%. Because I was in a gender studies class and we were studying it. Education matters. And capitalism has been falsely educating us for a very long time. Read more. Stop listening to, what's the word? Amicable or likable people, personable people. Stop just listening to them because they make a good argument and they are reactionary because they have a big opinion and they say it loudly with their chest. No, don't listen to that. Don't just listen to that. You can listen to that, but don't just listen to that. Read. Ask questions. Take the things that people are yelling and reacting about, take the things you read, take the things you ask questions about, and then put them in your own head, analyze them, and apply them. Learn. If you have one person saying over and over that there's only men and women, there's only male and female, like the Christian church. Just saying. Christianity introduced the binary in order to fight against polytheism when it was first being created, because Christianity was created just like every other religion. They are not innate. And when it was being created, it was trying to cause doubt in the polytheistic religions and in the paganism, and a lot of paganism that it was coming up against, because the majority of religions at that time were based on some sort of natural phenomenon. In order to decrease polytheism's validity, they had to emphasize the binary, because God had to be a man. And if there was a man, then there must only be an opposite, because there can only be one God. And if there's only one God, one monotheism creates this false notion of binary. The binary, this whole like notion of like opposites, one or the other, or a binary system, is just false. It's like there is no physical evidence that supports it. These are and like this is a little bit of a personal thought experiment that I've been trying to do and I've been writing about recently. But in the creation of monotheism, you create the binary because instead of having different gods and different people and having a wide spectrum who did different things and had different purposes and designs and styles and values or whatever, monotheism, the creation of monotheism, created the binary of God and not God. And it created a hierarchy. From that, they have continued to place the binary into all of our physical aspects of our physical reality, including our bodies. Even though it is not true. Factually, historically, we have never been a binary. Like, there is no binary. There's no male, female. How many animals do we know that can quite literally switch so that they can reproduce? And y'all want to tell me that everything's a binary and everything has its equal or opposite? Yes, every action has an equal or opposite reaction. Yes, because there is plurality. In order to gain, there must be some form of loss. In order to create, there must be some form of destruction, right? Like that is plurality. That is not a binary. This was a bit more of a rant than I was intending towards. Hope we had a little bit of an education right there. Google it up, read about it, talk about it with your friends. I'm gonna go back to this now before I keep rambling for too long. Hopefully I'll be publishing essays soon and y'all can read my thoughts about how the physical world has no binary system, and the binary system was created by along with the creation of monotheism. A kind of one-to-one on how those ideas relate is kind of similar to how race was created out of capitalism. The idea of race was one that was born from the creation of capitalism. Much the same way that the idea of the binary was born and created during the creation of Christianity. Two biggest poisons we have in our world right now. Any Abrahamic religion, honestly, any organized religion, but that's just me being a hater a little bit. You can practice however you absolutely want, as long as your practice does not infringe upon anyone else, and as long as your practice does not hurt other people. Also, personally, people shouldn't be allowed to proselytize. People should not be allowed to. Nope, you can't proselyte. If your organization depends on constant growth, it's impossible. If the validity of your religion is centered on gaining new members and convincing other people that you have the truth, then your religion is validated by other people's disbelief. Therefore, your religion is not valid. It's a little bit of a circle. Anyways, I feel like I'm rambling. I don't want to piss off all the religious folks. I really don't. Y'all, like, seriously, I think there are a lot of really great values in religion. I was raised in a very religious household. We went to church every single Sunday. We went to church every single Wednesday. But from the ages of 14 to 18, I went to church Monday through Friday, twice on Wednesdays, and 3 hours on Sunday. Religion has really great communities sometimes. Religion has really great values sometimes. Religion also has extreme systems of organization and control, which cause so much shame and guilt that it just controls everyone into feeling bad about themselves and the decisions that they make. So they stay suckered and placated, or prostrated, not placated, prostrated to this monotheistic power. Anyways, I did not get anywhere into this, and we are 20 minutes in. We had a little lesson on intersex. It's fine. Y'all like my monologue? I hope so. God damn. Transport workers, men and women and people. Men and women and others. Men and just, why do we say men and women? Just people, bro. People. People working to provide essential services and public safety. Volunteers, priests. Men and women religious. People religious. What? And so very many others. Why are we thinking religious people for during COVID? They didn't. The religious people were not the, oh my god, okay. America is cuckolded to Christianity. Capitalism is cuckolded to Christianity, and as soon as you say that the white sky daddy isn't real, it's a storybook. It does make you feel good at night. It's a bedtime story. Also, there's a lot of, the Bible is weird, bro. That's not a bedtime story. That was just some, like, weird old men who wanted to control things and thought that women were property and objects. It's just the super ego developed by patriarchy. It's disgusting. Anyways, and so very many others, they understood that no one is saved alone. Oh shit, this is actually really long. You may not read all of this. Fuck. Alright, I think this is too long actually, so we are actually going to just move on ahead. Masano, your work is perfectly fine. I'm not trying to shit on your work. It is wonderfully written, and you're in Catalyst, so I already commend you for your analysis. And I will read this later. I have read it. I did think it was a great writing, but the language that we use and the way we talk about things does have an impact. And constantly enforcing the binary supports capitalism and oppression. So that's where I am on that. All right, we are back into one of my favorite books ever, A People's Guide to Capitalism by Hadas Thier. We love this. Okie dokie. We've been reading about the labor theory of value, and we are on the part of socially necessary labor time. The labor theory of value, that a commodity's value in relation to other commodities is determined by how much labor has gone into producing it, was not a controversial point during Marx's day. For this reason, he actually spent very little time explaining or defining the concept. The idea that labor is the source of wealth and value in society was considered an obvious point by classical political economists like David Ricardo and Adam Smith. The first line of Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations is, quote, "The annual labor of every nation is the fund which originally supplies it with necessaries and conveniences of life," end quote. And if Smith's words could be mistaken to be rhetorical flourish, he flushes the point out more explicitly later in the book. The real price of everything, what everything really costs to the man who wants to acquire it, is the toil and trouble of acquiring it. What is bought with money or with goods is purchased by labor as much as what we acquire by the toil of our own body. The money or those goods indeed save us this toil. They contain the value of a certain quantity of labor which we exchange for what is supposed at the time to contain the value of an equal quantity. Labor was the first price, the original purchase money that was paid for all things. It was not by gold or by silver, but by labor, that all the wealth of the world was originally purchased, and its value to those who possess it and who want to exchange it for some new productions is precisely equal to the quantity of labor which it can enable them to purchase or command. That is crucial. Ultimately, the classical economists, I'm going to read that again because it was crucial. It was not by gold or by silver, but by labor, that all the wealth of this world was originally purchased. And its value to those who possess it and who want to exchange it for some new productions is precisely equal to the quantity of labor which it can enable them to purchase or command. Ultimately, the classical economics did not delve far enough into this potentially revolutionary concept. Marx spent a lot of time taking apart their theories, showing what was worthwhile and where they fell short. And modern economists, who today function more as apologists for capitalism than as social scientists, have altogether thrown out the idea, fearing its explosive implications. While Smith, Ricardo, and others developed their ideas in a period before working class struggle emerged, later economists had seen enough militancy and class struggle to fear the radical implications of working class power. That's why mainstream economists today are known as neoclassical, rather than classical economists. They profess dedication to the likes of Smith and Ricardo, but have discarded the troubling labor theory of value. After all, if the producers of wealth are laborers and not the bosses, then the popular slogan of May 1968, "The boss needs you, you don't need the boss," is not abstract hyperbole, but a concrete roadmap for the future. Marx's understanding of value was clearly more aligned to the classical bourgeois economists, who, writing at the early stages of capitalist development, were still genuinely trying to understand and explain the workings of the system. But where Smith and Ricardo left incomplete theories, Marx continued on, developing a social and economic framework on the basis of the labor theory of value. In order for this theory to be an effective analytical guide to understanding capitalism, Marx added a critical element: that the value of a commodity is determined by the amount of socially necessary labor time that it takes to produce it. The socially necessary labor time is the average amount of time that it takes to produce a commodity, under the conditions of production normal for a given society and with the average degree of skill and intensity of labor prevalent in that society. That is to say, what is the average time, using the common tools and technology within society, that it will take to construct a table? If the average is 2 hours, then this determines the table's exchange value. Without understanding socially necessary labor time, value would be a completely subjective element. If, for instance, the author of this book, being, hopefully, a better writer than a table maker, decided to go into the table making business, my lack of skill and experience might translate into 8 hours of labor to produce a presumably shoddy table. Did I already read this? No, I think I just read it because I've already read the book, parts of it. Okay. I was reading the book on my own before I started reading it with y'all. Got a little confused. If, for instance, the author of this book, being, hopefully, a better writer than a table maker, decided to go into the table making business, my lack of skill and experience might translate into 8 hours of labor to produce a presumably shoddy table. But this does not mean that my table would be worth 4 times as much as a table made by an established firm that produces a quality table in 2 hours. It would simply mean I've wasted an extra 6 hours of my life, or all 8 in the likely case that no one wants to buy my shoddy table. Most, if not all, of the time that I took to make the table would be deemed wasted labor by the market. Socially necessary labor time, as the name implies, is socially and historically determined. How long it takes to produce something in a given society changes over time. IBM's first personal computer in the 1970s cost thousands of dollars to purchase and could perform relatively few tasks. Today, the technology available to build computers is much more advanced, and therefore necessitates much less labor to create something a lot more complex. Now you can buy a personal computer that is many times more powerful than its 1970s predecessor for less than $300. Value under capitalism changes over time, further proof that it is not an inherent quality of the item, but socially determined. The regulation of value by the socially necessary labor time required to produce a given commodity takes on a force and momentum akin to the laws of nature. If tables are produced, on average, in 2 hours, all shoddy and inefficient table makers are forced to step up their techniques or bow out of table making. Marx writes, all different kinds of labor are continually being reduced to the quantitative proportions in which society requires them. The reason for this reduction is that in the midst of the accidental and ever-fluctuating exchange relations between the products, the labor time socially necessary to produce them asserts itself as a regulative law of nature. In the same way, the law of gravity asserts itself when a person's house collapses on top of him. We'll see how important the force of gravity is as we proceed. But the basic idea here is that if a corporation uses outdated techniques, lackadaisical. This is lackadaisical, but I thought it was lackadaisical. Fascinating. Lackadaisical work routines or otherwise slow means to produce goods, it will discover bankruptcy as quickly as a house lacking proper construction will discover gravity. I'm gonna read that again because I didn't read the sentence all in one go. But the basic idea here is that if a corporation uses outdated techniques, lackadaisical work routines, or otherwise slow means to produce goods, it will discover bankruptcy as quickly as a house lacking proper construction will discover gravity. As socialist Alex Kayanikos put it, the pressure of competition forces producers to adopt similar methods of production to their rivals, or find themselves undercut. A graphic design company would be historically obsolete if it designed websites from scratch using HTML tables. And a mining company that does not utilize the new and dangerous remote control and automation methods in mining would not be quote-unquote competitive. Incidentally, a good reason to force safety regulations on industries rather than expecting the laws of the market to help companies regulate themselves. Again, a mining company that does not utilize the new and dangerous remote control and automation methods in mining would not be competitive. Incidentally, a good reason to force safety regulations on industries rather than expecting the laws of the market to help companies regulate themselves. Duh. When profit is your motive, they're not gonna be safe. We want quality, not profit. We want value of life, not profit. That's it. Excuse me. Human bodies make noises. Fight me. Fight me. Bully me. Go for it. I farted. I tooted. I used childish words. I am very spicy today. I've missed y'all. Yeah. I'm going to read this last one. Generations of labor. The value of a commodity is not solely determined by the labor that directly produced it. The worth of a table, a jetliner, or an iPhone must also include the raw materials, tools, and technology used in the production of these commodities, from wood to turbines to microchips. But these raw materials and machinery are themselves commodities created by labor. As such, they all carry their own labor-determined value into the production of a new commodity. Essentially, their value simply gets passed into the value of the table, jetliner, or iPhone. To explain the point, it's useful to distinguish between what Marx identified as living labor, human labor that goes into the production of a commodity in the present time, and dead labor, previous generations of labor that carry past value into the process of production. Let's go back to the table making example. I said arbitrarily, but for the sake of simplicity, that it would take, on average, 2 hours of labor, including design and manufacture, to make a table. But in order to produce a table, a furniture company will also have to buy materials: wood planks, glue, screws, and equipment, power saws, clamps, sanders, factory belts, and computer programs that generate cutting specifications. Let's say that 45 minutes of labor produced the amount of wood used, and another 15 minutes of labor generated the glue, screws, etc. used for making one table. That's another hour's worth of labor that is hidden in the production process. The raw materials simply pass on their value into a new product, the table. Similarly, the value of the equipment used adds a fraction of its value to every round of production. Why a fraction? Take, for example, the value of a factory standard wide belt sander. It costs about $12,000. Assume, again arbitrarily, that an average sander lasts for about 4 years before it becomes too worn out to be effectively used. That means that each year, the machine transfers about a quarter of its value to the tables that it sands. During its lifespan, it will, the capitalists hope, pass its full value into the goods it's used to produce. By the time we add in the labor passed on from all the other machinery and rent paid for the factory in which it's manufactured, its value will be greater still. The point of this very hypothetical example is, of course, not to determine exact prices, but to show how every component and input into production is measured by socially necessary labor time. Understanding that previous generations of labor embodied in the equipment and materials are dead labor, but labor nonetheless, highlights the point that workers create value, not, as mainstream economics asserts, not a combination of capitalist ingenuity, technology, and perhaps a nod to the workers manning that technology. I'm going to read that again. Understanding that previous generations of labor embodied in the equipment and materials are dead labor, but labor nonetheless, highlights the point that workers create value, not a combination of capitalist ingenuity, technology, and perhaps a nod to the workers manning that technology. And insofar as they are dead labor, they pass on only the value that was already imbued in them in the past. They cannot, like labor, create new wealth. As Marx explained, a machine which is not active in the labor process is useless. In addition, it falls prey to the destructive power of natural processes. Iron rusts, wood rots. Yarn with which we neither weave nor knit is cotton wasted. Living labor must seize upon these things, awaken them from the dead, change them from merely possible into real and effective use values. Bathed in the fire of labor, appropriated as part of its organism, and infused with vital energy for the performance of the functions appropriate to their concept and to their vocation in the process, they are indeed consumed, but to some purpose, as elements in the formation of new use values, new products, which are capable of entering into individual consumption as means of subsistence or into a new labor process as means of production. Y'all hanging in here? We got about 20 minutes left. I'm thinking we can do some Hitchhikers. I'm thinking we can do some salt, fat, heat, acid. You want to say hi to Turbo? It's been a minute since you got to see him. He wants to go outside, and we'll do that soon. But why are you being grumpy? There's a camera on. You really do know when you're being watched, bro. Hey, are you okay? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let the purple out. Goodbye, good sir. All right. Salt, fat, acid, heat by Samin Nosrat. Samin Nosrat. We read about mayonnaise last time. In the magic of mayonnaise. We're gonna move on to butter. Retaining creaminess. Butter. Ba-da-da. 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 One of my favorite poets, Seamus, S-E-A-M-U-S, has a couple different pronunciations. Seamus, I'm going to say Seamus Heaney, H-E-A-N-E-Y. It's fine. Once described butter as coagulated sunlight, which might be the most elegant and economical way to describe its special alchemy. To begin with, it's the only animal fat made without killing an animal. Cows, goats, and sheep eat grass, a product of sunlight and photosynthesis, and deliver us milk. We skim the richest cream off the top and churn it until it transforms into butter. The process is so straightforward that kids can make butter by shaking a glass jar filled with chilled cream. Remember that butter, unlike oil, isn't pure fat. It's fat, water, and milk solids all held together in a state of emulsion. While most emulsions are stable in a narrow range of temperatures, just a few degrees, butter retains its solid form from freezing temperatures, 32 degrees Fahrenheit, until it melts at 90 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm gonna look up what emulsion means because I'm terrible at coming up with definitions in my head, even though I can know what the word means in context. Emulsion is a fine dispersion of minute droplets of one liquid in another in which it is not soluble or miscible. An emulsion is just a mix, a minute dispersion in which they are not soluble or miscible. Mixable or some shit. Miscible, but M-I-C-I-B-L-E. What is... We're just gonna look at all these words. Miscible is of liquids, forming a homogeneous mixture when added together. So they're not soluble, but they form a homogeneous, so butter emulsifies. That's fun. Makes a homogeneous mixture while still maintaining minute particles that are not soluble. Oil and water, but like not that separated when it's mixed. You emulsify, you shake it. Haha, mix, emulsify. Anyways. Reading aloud. Compare this to what happens when you heat or freeze mayonnaise. It'll break quickly, and the magic of butter will become clear. This explains why butter sweats when left on the kitchen counter on a hot day. The water separates from the fat as it melts. At even warmer temperatures, in a pan over a hot burner or in the microwave, butter's fat and water will immediately separate. Melted butter, then, is a broken emulsion. Hardening as it cools, never to return to its former miraculous state. Take care of its emulsion and butter will lend creaminess to everything from jambon beurre, I don't know what that is, JAMBON-BEURRE. I'm not going to keep looking up stuff because I've got about like 14 minutes-ish that I want to wrap this up in and another book still to go, and the kitty cat wants to be let back in. Hi, Elms. He just sat outside the doorway. Alright, so he's gonna fuck up the carpet a little bit. I'm gonna kind of let him play. So, jambon beurre, it's French, I can't pronounce it. The classic Parisian ham and butter baguette to chocolate truffles. The precise temperatures prescribed for butter in recipes are not arbitrary. Butter at room temperature is more pliable, allowing air to be worked into it to lighten cakes, or to combine more readily with flour, sugar, and eggs for tender cakes and cookies, or spread evenly onto a baguette, only to be topped with ham. As I'll explain later, it's also important to keep butter cold in order to preserve its emulsion and prevent it from interacting with the proteins in flour when making doughs for flaky pastries, including all butter pie dough. Julia Child once remarked, "With enough butter, anything is good." Put her advice into practice by using butter to make another emulsion, butter sauce. Temperature is crucial with butter-water emulsions. The key is to start with a warm pan and cold butter. For a simple pan sauce, after removing a steak, fish fillet, or pork chop from the pan, tip out any excess fat. Place the pan back over the heat and add just enough liquid, water, stock, or wine to coat the bottom. Using a wooden spoon, scrape any delicious crusty bits into the sauce and bring it to a boil. Then, for each serving, add 2 tablespoons of very cold butter into the pan and swirl over medium-high heat, letting the butter melt into the liquid. Don't let the pan get so hot that the butter sizzles. As long as there is enough water in the sauce, you'll be fine. Once you see the sauce begin to thicken, turn off the flame and let the butter finish melting over residual heat, but don't stop swirling. Taste for salt, and if needed, add a squeeze of lemon or splash of wine. Spoon over the food and serve immediately. The same method works for making butter-water sauces to coat noodles or vegetables. Do it directly in the pasta pan, as long as it's hot enough and the butter is cold. Make sure there's enough water in the pan and swirl, toss, swirl to make the sauce and coat. Swirl, toss, swirl to make the sauce and coat the pasta all at once. Add pecorino cheese and black pepper and you've got pasta cacio e pepe, the classic Roman dish that's even more delicious than macaroni and cheese. This is one of my favorite people ever because they love food. And people who love food love living and love humans. And I have a lot of respect and love for people who love food. I just want them all in my life as a fellow food lover. We are on to the final stretch. We are here for the part that you all have been here for from day one, the Hitchhiker's Guide The Ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. We are currently reading from the book or the play or the radio show or whichever one it first was. But it has been written into a book because he put it into all the book because he did a couple versions of all these fun things, which we talked about at one point there. You can look up on your own. It's quite interesting. Regardless, we're reading The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And we are in chapter 16. Are you gonna come in or not? I guess I'll go. Bye. Chapter 16. Ew. It feels gross. I'm gonna do this. Arthur awoke to the sound of argument and went to the bridge. Ford was waving his arms about. "You're crazy, Zaphod," he was saying. Magrathea is a myth, a fairy story. It's what parents tell their kids about at night if they want to grow up to be economists. And that's what we are currently in orbit about, insisted Zaphod. "Look, I can't help what you may personally be in orbit about," said Ford, "but this ship..." "Computer," shouted Zaphod. "Oh no. Hi there, this is Eddie, your shipboard computer, and I'm feeling just great, guys. And I know I'm just going to get a bundle of kicks out of any program you care to run through me." Arthur looked inquiringly at Trillian. She motioned him to come on in, but keep quiet. "Computer," said Zaphod, "tell us what our present trajectory is." "A real pleasure, feller," it burbled. "We are currently in orbit at an altitude of 300 miles around a legendary planet of Magrathea." "Proving nothing," said Ford. "I wouldn't trust that computer to speak my weight." "I can do that for you, sure," enthused the computer, punching out more ticker tape. "I can even work out your personality problems to 10 decimal places if it will help." Trillian interrupted. "Zaphod," she said, "any minute now we will be swinging round to the daylight side of this planet, adding whatever it turns out to be." "Hey, what do you mean by that? The planet's where I predicted it would be, isn't it?" "Yes, I know there's a planet there. I'm not arguing with anyone. It's just that I wouldn't know Magrathea from any other lump of cold rock. Dawn's coming up if you want it." Okay, muttered Zaphod. "Let's at least give our eyes a good time. Computer?" "Hi there, what can I..." "Just shut up and give us a view of the planet again." A dark, featureless mass once more filled the screens, the planet rolling away beneath them. They watched for a moment in silence, but Zaphod was fidgety with excitement. "We are now traversing the night side," he said in a hushed voice. The planet rolled on. "The surface of the planet is now 300 miles beneath us," he continued. He was trying to restore a sense of occasion to what he felt should have been a great moment. "Magrathea!" He was piqued by Ford's skeptical reaction. "Magrathea!" In a few seconds, he continued, "We should see... there!" The moment carried itself. Even the most seasoned star tramp can't help but shiver at the spectacular drama of a sunrise seen from space. But a binary sunrise is one of the marvels of the galaxy. Out of the utter blackness stabbed a sudden point of blinding light. It crept up by slight degrees and spread sideways in a thin crescent blade, and within seconds 2 suns were visible, furnaces of light, searing the black edge of the horizon with white fire. "Excuse me, sir." "Do you need attention?" Fierce shafts of color streaked through the thin atmosphere beneath them. "The fires of dawn," breathed Zaphod. "The twin suns of Solianus and Ram." "Or whatever," said Ford quietly. "Solianus and Ram," insisted Zaphod. The suns blazed into the pitch of space, and a low, ghostly music floated through the bridge. Marvin was humming ironically because he hated humans so much. As Ford gazed at the spectacle of light before them, excitement burned inside him. But only the excitement of seeing a strange new planet. It was enough for him to see it as it was. It faintly irritated him that Zaphod had to impose some ludicrous fantasy onto the scene to make it work for him. All this Magrathea nonsense seemed juvenile. Isn't it enough to see that a garden is beautiful without having to believe that there are fairies at the bottom of it too? All this Magrathea business seemed totally incomprehensible to Arthur. I need a hair tie. All this Magrathea business seemed totally incomprehensible to Arthur. He had shipped to Trillian and asked her what was going on. I only know what Zaphod's told me, she whispered. Apparently Magrathea is some kind of legend from way back, which no one seriously believes in. A bit like Atlantis on Earth, except that the legends say that Magratheans used to manufacture planets. Arthur blinked at the screens and felt he was missing something important. Suddenly, he realized what it was. Is there any tea on this spaceship? He asked. More of the planet was unfolding beneath them as the heart of gold streaked along its orbital path. The suns now stood high in the black sky. The pyrotechnics of dawn were over, and the surface of the planet appeared bleak and forbidding in the common light of day. Gray, dusty, and only dimly contoured. It looked dead and cold as a crypt. From time to time, promising features would appear on the distant horizon. Ravines, maybe mountains, maybe even cities. But as they approached, the lines would soften and blur into anonymity and nothing would transpire. The planet's surface was blurred by time, by the slow movement of the thin, stagnant air that had crept across it for century upon century. Clearly, it was very, very old. A moment of doubt came to Ford as he watched the gray landscape move beneath them. The immensity of time worried him. He could feel it as a presence. He cleared his throat. Well, even supposing it is, said Zaphod. Which it isn't, continued Ford. What do you want with it anyway? There's nothing there. Not on the surface, said Zaphod. All right, just supposing there's something. I take it you're not here for the sheer industrial archaeology of it all. What are you after? One of Zaphod's heads looked away. The other one looked around to see what the first was looking at, but it wasn't looking at anything very much. Well, said Zaphod airily, it's partly the curiosity, partly a sense of adventure, but mostly I think it's the fame and it's the fame and the money. Ford glanced at him sharply. He got a strong impression that Zaphod hadn't the faintest idea why he was there at all. You know, I don't like the look of that planet at all, said Trillian, shivering. Take no notice, said Zaphod. With half the wealth of the former Galactic Empire stored on it somewhere, it can afford to look frumpy. Bullshit, thought Ford. Even supposing this was the home of some ancient civilization now gone to dust, even supposing a number of exceedingly unlikely things, there was no way that vast treasures of wealth were going to be stored there in any form that would still have meaning now. He shrugged. I think it's just a dead planet, he said. The suspense is killing me, said Arthur testily. Stress and nervous tension are now serious social problems in all parts of the galaxy. Fuck, I don't like sitting for this long. I had to stretch. I don't know how y'all do this. Oh, my knees are killing me. I feel like Stress and nervous tension are now serious social problems in all parts of the galaxy, and it is in order that this situation should not be in any way exacerbated that the following facts will now be revealed in advance. The planet in question is, in fact, the legendary Magrathea. The deadly missile attack shortly to be launched by an ancient automatic defense system will result merely in the breakage of 3 coffee cups and a mouse cage, the bruising of somebody's upper arm, and the untimely creation and sudden demise of a bowl of petunias and an innocent sperm whale. In order that some sense of mystery should still be preserved, no revelation will yet be made concerning whose upper arm sustains the bruise. This fact may safely be made the subject of suspense, since it is of no significance whatsoever. And we're gonna stop. There's a reason. I took a break. It is really hard to sit for this long. I don't know how y'all do it. I've appreciated y'all for staying around with this. Y'all are great. Y'all are amazing. There are none of you yet, but there might be one day. As always, I enjoy ending with a little bit of poetry or fun stuff, and so I don't have a poetry book. I don't want to read again. I love you all. It's been an hour. I'll catch y'all next time. Thanks for coming to your daily dose of D. I'll catch y'all later. I look crazy. Y'all are great.